Just think that a billionaire man who did not even know you till yesterday, make you the heir of your entire property. But what you will have to pay for all this, it will be known only after hearing the story. The story begins with a poor boy named Rick who takes care of her with her ailing mother. One day when Rick was cooking for his mother suddenly took out the gun while reading the Bible. Rick understood that something was going to go wrong. But he could not save his mother. 3 years after this accident, Rick was engaged in handling his life. When he reached his work this morning, he came to know that his job was given to someone else. He was fired without any special reason, after which Rick went to ask for work with his friend Jeremy, who made jugaad and put it to work in a very large mansion. While working there, Rick suffered a little injury, after which Rick asked for the first aid kit from the manager Antonate there. At first he started scolding him instead of helping Rick. And when Rick told him that he would start working again after doing his ointment, the Antonate took him inside the mission for the ointment. Here Rick was doing his ointment bandage when another maid said something in Antonate's ear, which he asked Rick to go out on hearing. While getting out of the mansion, Rick's eye went on the money lying on the table and remembering his compulsion, he decided to take a 2-note. But as soon as he started getting out of that room, then he looked at the owner of the mission, who was sitting near there and was watching Rick stealing. And the next second Antonate also reached there. He fired Rick from his job at the same time and Rick was very scared on hearing this. He started apologizing to George citing his poverty. But he was surprised when George forgave him as well as he caught the entire money in his hand as an advance payment in his hand. The same night Rick shifted to his friend Jeremy, where Jeremy asked him what he would do if he gets a lot of money. On which Rick said that he would like to roam all good places. But first of all he will come again in a relationship with his ex Tanya. Hearing this answer, Jeremy started making fun of him. The next morning Rick and Jeremy were sharing work among themselves when Rick called Mr. George from inside the mission. When Rick met Mr. George, he told him that he really had no heir, and he had a lot of regrets of this thing. He then asked Rick if he believed in God. On which Rick agreed. George offered money in front of him. According to which, if Rick is ready to eat food on the dead body of Mr. George, then he can become the owner of all his property. Rick felt all this joke. But George was not in the mood for joke. He said that this opportunity can turn your whole life. Rick was not ready for this, but George asked him to think again. Somewhere, George knew that the lack of money would make this work done by Rick. Rick had a little more strange to eat food on the dead body. That is why he started looking for a second job, but it was not getting any benefit. Then suddenly there was a knock on his door. As soon as he opened the door, a man stood with an invitation to take Rick to the mentor. He asked Rick to get ready as soon as possible. After a while, when Rick reached Rick Mashin, Antonate told him about Mr. George's death and then placed a contract in front of him. According to which if Rick eats food on George's body, then he will become the owner of all the property of George. But for this he needed to finish all the food. Also, he cannot tell anyone about it even if he wants to. Rick did not understand anything at first, but after thinking for a while, he agreed to it. Because he was tired of a Kangalese life. Now Rick was being served by keeping food on George's corpse, and he started to eat food with courage. Here Antonate was constantly reminding him that he would have to finish the entire food. If anything is left, he will not get the property of George. After this, as soon as Rick succeeded in his work, Antonate grabbed a card in his hand. The cards were written in the card of Mr. George, which was a kind of contract. Because it was written on that card that from now on, Rick Mr. George's problems are going to take their heads. And he will give his clean soul to Mr. George. But Rick was not in a position to understand more at this time. He signed the contract without reading more. Soon after, he started feeling very strange. After this, as soon as he came back to his house and lay in bed, suddenly he felt as if he was underwater. And then souls surrounded him from all sides. He was very scared to see this scene. The next morning when Rick was walking in the mansion, he saw a man who was staring at him. But the next second man disappeared from there. Rick tried to chase the man. But Antonate stopped him as if nothing had happened. He also told Rick that he is the owner of this mission, and he can only get all the work done on his own free will. But at the moment he could not understand how to do with his new life. Then Antonate gave him an unlimited credit card and asked him to enjoy his new life as much as possible. After a while Rick went to Jeremy's house to get his luggage, where he tried to give some money to Jeremy which Jeremy refused to take. There he met his ex Tanya once again, who asked him if any of his lottery had gone out. On which Rick said that something better than the lottery has done much better. He now wanted to go out somewhere with Tanya. But Tanya flatly refused for this, as he still did not have full faith in Rick. Rick then went to a club where he ordered the most expensive liquor for himself. Seeing this mood, a man called him to say this. He started saying that you do not have the capacity to drink such an expensive liquor. Angry with this, Rick bought 2 bottles, which gave one for himself and one to the man. After this, when he came back to the mansion while drinking alcohol, he saw a woman. And when he touched his nose, he realized that he had blood on his face. But as soon as she turned back to the woman, she had disappeared from there. But then the next second woman attacked Rick and attacked her. During this time Rick once again realized underwater, and when he came back to consciousness, he was lying on the ground. On seeing his condition, Rick immediately approached the Antoinette, and accused the Antoinette that he would have given some drugs, due to which he saw ghosts. On listening to him, Antoinette immediately understood everything. He first asked Rick to calm down. But Rick only needed the answer to his questions at that time. He immediately expressed his desire to reread the contract and the last words of Mr. George from Antoinette, and as soon as he read that last word, he started to understand everything. Now he was realizing what he had done. But he still could not believe that whatever is happening to him could really happen. At this, Antoinette told him that Mr. George was engaged in a peculiar witchcraft shortly before his death so that he could give the sin of his destiny to someone else. This will avoid going to hell after he dies. After this, Antoinette showed Rick a book in which it was written about a particular richness. In this, people used to choose a person who sat on their dead body and eat food, so that all the sins of the man would be transferred to him. And such people were especially called sin-eats. Now Rick realized that he too has become a since. Antoinette explained to him that the money always comes only after giving a price. But now Rick wanted to fix all this back. That is why he reached the church directly to atone for his sins without losing time. But after reaching the church, Father asked him, "Tell me what you have committed." But Rick did not know anything about his sins. Because he did not actually commit this, all these sins were of Mr. George. That is why he came back quietly. As soon as he reached Halvely, he started asking all the servants about Mr. George one by one, but no one was willing to tell him anything. That is why in the end he threatened to remove Antoinette from his job and asked him about Mr. George's sins. After which Antoinette placed in front of Mr. George's police records, an audio tape and all the confessions in front of him. After examining which Rick came to know that Mr. George was accused of killing his wife Sujin, which George had never hit, but on seeing that file, Rick understood that the woman who attacked him was the soul of the infant. On receiving this information, Rick again went to the church and told Father about his sin. Father then prayed to Jesus to end his sin. During this time, Sujin once again tried to strangle Rick. But luckily, Father's prayer was driven away from there in time. After a while Rick received a call from Tanya, who told him about Jeremy's strange behavior. She wanted Rick to talk to Jeremy once. The same night, while watching TV, it realized that a man was standing next to his couch. As soon as he turned to see the man, a lamp suddenly fell down. When Rick approached the lamp, a man wearing a mask started chasing him. Rick ran over the stairs, where he met a small child wrapped with blood to protect his rescue. At the same time Antoinette also reached there and after seeing Rick's condition, tried to calm him down. After this he told Rick that in reality Mr. George was also from a very poor family, and he too had changed his luck as a sin-eater. Which meant that Mr. George also had many sins for his heads. And now after his departure, all these sins have reached Rick. Antoinette believed that all this is never going to end, because the same thing happened to Mr. George, and disturbed by these scary spirits, he gave up his life. Now Rick also wanted to be the most free, and that is why he asked Antoinette about the way out of it. On which Antoinette told him that there is only one way to get out. If he gives his burden to another person who is also ready to take it. And if he does not do so, then he will have to face all this till death. At the same time, He asked Rick to take as much as he can enjoy with money. Because I do not know how many days he will be able to live. Antoinette also gave medicines to calm her mind a little, but Rick said that she did not need any special need for it. Now he went again to meet Father. But the father did not even let him enter the church. It was also difficult for Rick that night to sleep, and he was forced to take the pills given by Antoinette. But as soon as he lay in the bed, he once again started seeing souls around him. Seeing whom he was so scared that he fell down from the bed, and at the same time Antoinette also reached there. But at that time Rick was not in his consciousness and he saw his mother in front of him. But as soon as he moved towards his mother, the doctor injected him and brought him back to his senses. After which Rick told Antoinette that now he wants to do something different, no matter how dangerous the path is. Antoinette explained to him that it would be very strange. Mr. George was not ready for this. And he once again asked Rick if he really wants to leave all his money. On which Rick said that I was a beggar. But when Antoinette asked him if he had any person who was ready to take this responsibility. So Rick had no answer to this, and he asked Antoinette whether she would like to take this responsibility. But Antoinette flatly denied this, because a person who knows about this deal cannot do this. He also suggested that your friend Jeremy, maybe he can be ready for it. But Rick was not ready for this. Because he did not want to do bad with a person with whom he had spent his whole life. At the same time Rick received a call from Jeremy, where he told that he was in a big trouble. And he needs some money from Rick. On hearing this, Rick immediately left with money for Jeremy's house. At the same time, he also had his gun, but as soon as he reached Jeremy's house, he saw a soul who was seeking help from him. On seeing him, Rick shot him. But in reality she was not a soul but Tanya, who was now a corpse and lying in front of him. In the next few seconds, Rick's driver left him from there. After which Antoinette told Rick that she will handle everything, there is no need to worry. But now Rick was so upset that he wanted to finish everything. At this, Antoinette reminded him what he would have to do for him. Now Rick just wanted to get rid of his chase. He was also ready to curse Jeremy. After a while, Jeremy reached there. He was very sad for Tanya's departure, but at the moment he wanted any kind of work from Rick so that he would have money to eat food. At this, Antoinette told Jeremy that Rick wants him to become a sin eater for him. For which Jeremy too was immediately ready, because he did not feel that all this would be really done. After a while Rick lay on a table where doctors were preparing this ritual. Antoinette assured him that this method would definitely work. After some time, the doctor gave Rick an injection, which stopped beating his heart. Now Rick regained consciousness in another world where all souls were running for help. And amidst all this, Rick also saw his mother. But as soon as she reached her, she turned into Tanya and both apologized to each other. The next second, all souls attacked him. But this time his mother's soul saved him. Then Rick regained consciousness, after which Antoinette told him that Jeremy had finished the puja and took all the troubles of Rick on his head, and now Rick is completely free. After 6 months, now Rick started working as a construction labor. Rick was sitting in a park at the end of the story, but at that time he was not alone, but Tanya's soul was also with him. Rick did not disturb his sin with Jeremy because Rick was not afraid of Tanya. Even today, there was love for Tanya somewhere in his heart. On the other hand, Antoinette wrote Jeremy's name in a book where all the sin eaters were recorded. Now all the souls present in that mansion were intimidating Jeremy, whose voice was also reaching the Antoinette. And it was clear from his eyes that even now many scenes are yet to come inside this mansion. If you like the video, then like it and subscribe to the channel. Let it be in the next video.